Welcome to As the Key Turns. I'm David Lehman, and I'm here with my wife today of almost 40 years. And we're here to talk about what we learned from our not too long ago trip to Europe and my hometown. It's like when you saw a child a year or two ago, and then you go back and see them again, you're amazed at how quick they grew. You know, you notice the change. So I was absent from Europe for 40 years, or almost that. Well, yeah, probably 40 years. 1985, yeah, or 84, yeah, more than 40 years. So I was absent from Europe for more than 40 years, and when I came back, the changes were dramatic, to say the least. Like, we had, and what's inspired this whole thing was a very brief conversation I had with a police officer in England. We went to Dover, and Dover was famous in my family because I had an uncle that said that he always dreamed of Dover while he was in Europe, because that meant he was going home, because that was their jump off point for Europe. So I visited Dover since I always heard about, you know, it's like heaven on earth or something, because, you know, that's what he thought of it as, because it was to him. It's get away from the war in Europe and go home. So while we were waiting for the train, we ended up having this brief conversation with this police officer, and what it was about was, I said, since when do you people do Halloween? I mean, when I was here before, nobody ever heard of Halloween. Same thing in Germany and Austria and the rest of Europe. Spain, all them people, they never heard of Halloween. And this cop says, oh, well, we just do whatever the Americans do. We just copy them. And I was like, oh my God. It reminds me of the thing where your mom tells you when you did something stupid, and your excuse was, well, all my friends do it. And she says, well, if all your friends were jumping off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? And, you know, that's what Europe is doing. That's what Germany is doing, and Austria and the UK is Hollywood puts out their propaganda about the way they think the world should be. And people like my hometown, Longview, Washington, is the place a third world shithole, babe?
Yes.
Yeah. See, she says yes. And why would you say that?
Homeless everywhere.
Yeah, the homeless are everywhere.
Young kids are begging at the library.
You know, you saw young kids begging at the library?
Yeah, the 16-year-old.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, or at the gas station. Where was it?
Oh, no, it was at a rest stop, wasn't it? When we first arrived? Is that who you're talking about? Some young gal? Yeah, it was at a rest stop. Yeah. Perfectly healthy gal holding up a sign that says, please help. Or the guy we saw in Oregon that was holding up a sign that says, please help. And he's sitting at the foot of a sign for McDonald's, and on their sign it said, help wanted. So it's like, look, there's a job right there. You only have to walk across the parking lot to get a job. Well, they can't do that because everything's free. Why would I get a job? They're going to give me free stuff. That's what Europe did. That's what Germany did. My hometown, we ended up talking. Remember the cop we talked to in the parking lot?
Yes.
He worked for the same department. He's working for the same department that I used to work for, the Longview Police Department. And in my day, if you were caught with heroin, like a gram, you were arrested and probably went to prison. Now, no, nothing like it. He says they like write you a ticket. They ask you to please consider going to counseling and stuff like that. And like the third time that you're caught with it, you might have to go to court. And if you don't show up, then the fourth time you get caught, they might make you go to court, like physically take you into custody and make you go to court. And then the judge will release you. And it's just like, God almighty, no wonder you have a drug problem. You don't do anything to anyone. There's no consequences for this drug problem. And the reason that people are homeless, take my word for it, is because, you know, their family was tired of putting up with their lying and their stealing. They're drug addicts, they're drunks, they're mentally ill, things like that. And what they have done is that over a period of time, they've stolen from everyone in their family till they don't want them around. They've lied about absolutely everything, because when you're a drunk or a drug addict, let's just say an addict, whatever your drug of choice is, you lie and steal and do anything. Some drugs, you'd sell your own children into prostitution to get more drugs. I've met them people. So, of course, the family is sick of you. I mean, we had an employee once that told me that her sister-in-law wasn't allowed to come to her brother and her wedding because she was a thief, and she was afraid that she would steal things while at the celebration of her marriage to this girl's brother. And it's like, wow, that is so terribly sad. But that's why you end up homeless, because you're in serious need of help, and you won't get help unless you're forced to. People I met in prison told me, thank God I went to prison, it saved my life, because we cut off their supply of drugs. They actually were mandatory to go to therapy. And it used to be that way 40 years ago, but not today, not in America. And Europe, the UK, Germany, Austria, those are the only ones I can really speak about from personal knowledge, is following our example down this road of stupidity. You know, I mean, if your friends told you to let all the drug dealers and the drug addicts go with a stiff verbal warning, would you do that too? I mean, come on. No wonder my hometown has turned into a third world shithole, with the homeless everywhere. 2 blocks from my parents' house, we went to my high school reunion, and they put up this 12-foot tall fence and topped with barbed wire and stuff. The place is like, wow, looks like a penitentiary. No, it's a restaurant, and they blocked off all the windows with bars and stuff, put barbed wire, razor wire on the roof to keep you from climbing over the building, and in this parking lot. And I thought, well, they didn't do that because they think it looks nice, because it was a fun thing to do. It costs a lot of money to do that. So the problem is they're getting broke into all the time, and they have to try their best to keep these people out, because when they are broken into, nobody says anything about it. I mean, so what? You know, the cops come, write you a ticket, you're released on your own recognizance, even though you don't have a fixed place, a fixed residence. You can't make bail. Well, because it's unfair to the poor. It's this permissive attitude in America, reflected in our media, movies, television, etc., how we're exporting all this stupidity to the rest of the world, and they're following the American example. Thank God here in Guyana, they're not. I mean, here they never really had a police. They just show up long after anybody's been murdered or anything. Like, they're not going to save you. In America, they might respond until, you know, you guys defunded the police, and now you can't get anybody to be cops anymore. And you know, you let a whole bunch of people go from my old agency, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, with this pay people 8 months to leave their job. I mean, if I was close to retirement or had just started work for the Bureau of Prisons, damn right I'd be out of there for 8 months, free money. Absolutely. So, you know, my point is, countries are doing just like them children were doing, and they're just following America as the leader right over the stupidity cliff. And I hope America has finally come to its senses and said, hey, there's enough of this crap going on. We're not going to do this anymore. And we're going to change course. It seems like this new administration might be doing that. Only time will tell. But from my 40 years experience as being an adult, I mean, I've seen drastic changes in the last 10, 15 years, and none of it has been for the good, and it's all from being permissible. If you raise your children like that, if you said, sure, little Johnny, eat all the candy you want, you don't have to eat your vegetables ever, and stay out as late as you want, hang out with all of your friends until 2 o'clock in the morning, see how well that works out for you. I mean, there's a future college graduate in your family, right? Use a little common sense when it comes to the justice system. People need to be held accountable. People need to be told, no, you can't do that. I mean, in the Bureau of Prisons, that was the entire mission of the Bureau of Prisons, is to tell people, no, you must. I mean, I learned a lot accidentally from the Bureau of Prisons. And what we were supposed to do is teach people lessons. That's why you go to prison, to learn what you did to get yourself there was wrong. And we were supposed to teach you. That's part of the rehabilitation process, and it's every employee's responsibility. And I did that by acting like a normal person and not allowing everybody to do whatever it was that he wanted to do. So what I accidentally learned from that was take responsibility for your own actions. Don't pass it off onto others. Well, it's the world's fault that I'm in prison. No, it's your fault. You did it. You know, circumstances are different for everyone. Some are more advantaged than others, but it doesn't mean that you have to fall into the trap of, well, it's not my fault, so I can go ahead and steal and rob and kill and, you know, just stupidity like that. And let me tell you another thing. I hear a lot about, people are always talking about reparations. We should give reparations to people. Well, fine example of that is look at the vast majority of lottery winners. What do they do with the money? They win millions of dollars, and then they piss it away in an extremely short period of time. So they win $10 million, they get $5 million cash because they cash it out. They take the $5 million, and in 2 years, most of them not only have spent the $5 million, but they spent an additional $1 million that they're in debt for. And that's what's going to happen with anybody that you give reparations to, deserving or not, doesn't matter. When you give these people a windfall like that, when it happens to ordinary folks that win the lottery, it's usually a disaster. And the same way when someone very wealthy dies and they give this massive amount of money to their heirs that didn't have money before, it's usually just wasted. They throw the money away. You'll see examples of that over and over and over again. So the same way with the homeless. You're giving them a free place to stay, cash for spending, free food. They're throwing it all away. It's the same thing in prison. We give people money to do their forced labor, because once you commit a crime and you're sentenced to jail, you're a slave. Okay, I know people don't want to say that, but you are. You've sold yourself into slavery through the justice system. And we give them money, or pin money, I would say, for doing these little jobs like mopping the floor. You give them 5 cents an hour or whatever. And you know what they do with it? They buy candy with it. They don't buy things that are actually useful to them, like learning material or pencils and paper and things like that, so that they can study something. They buy candy, ice cream, other quote luxury items unquote, because Like the guy said, hey man, when I get out, I need some advice on how to be an entrepreneur. Buddy, to be an entrepreneur takes a lot of self-discipline, and you don't have it because you've been in prison because you don't have self-discipline. And now we have taught you not to be disciplined at all. We've taught you only to follow orders. You get up when I tell you, you go to sleep when I tell you, you do what I tell you, when I tell you to do it, and how I tell you to do it. That's not an entrepreneur. He's got to be able to think on his own. So I told the guy, and I meant this, buddy, if you can get a job doing anything, mopping floors, putting cans on shelves, anything, and if you can keep that for a year without going back to prison or committing more felonies, it would be a miracle, a minor miracle. Concentrate on not going to prison and showing up to work every day for at least 1 year. Then you can remotely consider having your own job to be an entrepreneur, because you're not going to be able to do it right out of prison because you have been programmed like a robot to follow orders. And yeah, I know you're a rebel and you don't follow orders. That's exactly how you end up right back into prison. So use your head when you do some of this stuff. And it's just what I've learned over the past 40 years of being an adult, working in law enforcement, you know, being a soldier and seeing what people do then. Like the guy that gets his paycheck and wastes it all in one day. You know, I mean, there's a group of people that are soldiers, just talking about people that just waste their money. You see this group, we used to have they used to hand you a check. And at other times, they used to hand you actually cash. That's the way the Army used to pay you back in, you know, the days when I was first in. But before I got out, they were doing check to bank. And so what would happen is these people would show up at their bank account, at their ATM, at like 10 o'clock at night. And they would wait and wait and wait until 4 o'clock in the morning when the government finally issued out this money. You know, because they couldn't wait until 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning when the bank opened to get this money. They had to have it right that moment at 3 o'clock in the morning because they had no money, because they spent all the money that they had earned from their last paycheck and had zero. And they weren't even eating yet. So they took that money out of the ATM at 3 in the morning and went to, you know, the grocery store and bought some food for them and their family because it was all gone. Not because they paid them so badly, but because they were such bad managers. So go ahead and give people $2 million reparation. I bet it don't last a year. So just some benefits of my experience. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button, the thumbs up, and the subscribe. Promise it won't kill you to subscribe. Thanks a lot.